Everyone seems to agree that trust in these institutions has declined significantly. The question is why, and we have a lot of interesting answers. I think I have the answer. It's because these institutions shouldn't be trusted. That's why trust is going down, because they've showed themselves to be corrupt or incompetent time and time again. Now, does this mean every institution in the country is corrupt? No. If I say that, for example, medical institutions have showed corruption or incompetence, does that mean that you shouldn't trust Tylenol or you shouldn't go to the doctor? No, that's not what I'm saying. But it is clear that many of these institutions have personal motivations or motivations that benefit themselves. That means that they're operating outside the scope of what we expect, such as the medical industry, the media, our government institutions, academia, cultural institutions such as Hollywood, corporate institutions such as algorithms on social media, etc. These all amped up, I agree with Parallax, in 2016, though they existed before. Remember Romney's binders full of women and he was going to enslave black people. I think that you could see that the media is almost always entirely skewed one way. And in my lifetime, they have become evident that they are no longer journalists. They're just propagandists. And the left is starting to see that, particularly people like Wick, who I see on social media.
Let me give you a really good example. When the Iraq War was going on, I protested that to the point that I ended up on the terrorist watch list. Bush had a whole scandal back then about putting war protesters on the terrorist watch list. And every time I tried to fly, it was a nightmare. So I was very, very opposed to that. It's without a doubt we had weapons of mass destruction that did not exist, and that was the reason we went to war. We focused a lot on that, and because of that, we lost a lot of trust in the CIA, our various, intelligence apparatuses, and also our military. Well, I do disagree with the conclusions Rob is coming to. I understand why he would feel that way, because there is a conservative media apparatus that exists to feed conspiracy theories nonstop, and there are a lot of people on the right and the left that are very vulnerable to this. This is part of the human condition. It's why RFK has so much traction with his anti-vax nonsense.
So what you see here is that it's easy to just wave things away as a conspiracy theory and say that, all of this distrust is just hyped up misinformation from right-wing sources calling it. It's easy to make those claims when the very institutions that you're defending are defending sort of your...
Said, Rob.
That's
come on.
Okay, kind of boy.
None of us
say
said
my
anything
piece.
close to that.
I'll say my piece. Brianna, did you say that there was a conspiracy theories that are being promulgated by right-wing media sources? Did you say that?
I don't want to get into this with you, Rob, today, because what's going to happen is we're going to go down a rabbit hole, and this whole panel that's about structural distrust is going to be adjudicating a bunch of...
No, that's not what's happening, Brianna. I'll explain what happened. I feel that I accurately...
Okay, one at a time. All of you will stop. All of you will stop, and we will go one at a time. Finish your thought, Brianna, very quickly, and then we'll go back.
Of course. What I don't want to do today is to start going through a system where we adjudicate a bunch of random conspiracy theories. My point, which I said, is this exists on the right and the left. RFK has been pushing vaccine conspiracies to California moms for a long time. This also exists on the right. It is a human nature phenomenon.
Okay, so Econoboy interrupted me to say me accurately representing what Brianna said wasn't what was said. Then when I asked Brianna, is that what you said? She says I'm not going to engage with it. Both sides engage in conspiracy theories. So Econoboy, perhaps you should speak for yourself and not Brianna, who's unwilling to defend her own positions. Now, she's going to say that things are conspiracy theory and she doesn't want to get into the specifics of them. It would have been the same if I hand-waved away her concerns about the Iraq war by saying, these are outlandish conspiracy theories. We don't want to get into it. You're anti-American. You're a misinformation peddler. You're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, that's what the Bush administration did. And people like Brianna that would have been marching with people like me that were against the Iraq war, that had a healthy distrust of our military-industrial complex and CIA, were correct in that instance, just like I'm correct in many of the instances that people like Brianna would call me a conspiracy theorist. The difference that's occurred now, and it was one of the greatest propaganda victories in history, was the very people on the left that used to be the most distrusting of institutions like our intel agencies, our executive branch for things like Bush and the intel agencies lying us into the Iraq war. What happened was they had a president in Barack Obama who basically came in and continued all of those policies. And then we had a president named Donald Trump, who is the avatar for everything that the people on the left hate, who said, wait a minute, I have questions about the intel agencies, to the point where Chuck Schumer told us that he shouldn't question the intel agencies because they'd find 6 ways of Sunday getting back at him, which is actually exactly what they did. And that's all it took for people like Brianna to go from protesting the Iraq war and being conspiracy theorists against organizations like the CIA CIA and our military-industrial complex to now being their biggest defenders. And we could go through issue after issue that shows they lied. For example, you say that they lied in Iraq. I agree. I say they lied in Libya. And they took a country that, granted, had someone who was a bad leader in Gaddafi, but in Africa, that country was doing pretty well. It had really high literacy rates, high levels of home ownership, etc. And now, because of the lies that were spread, it now has open-air slave markets, and there's no hope for them. Or the lies we were told for 20 years after spending trillions of dollars in Afghanistan, that we were told things are going swimmingly. We've almost turned the corner. Trust us, the Afghan security forces will prevail when we leave. And they failed in 3 days. Now, these sorts of lies occur over and over and over.